shocking secret revealed. How a billionaire CEO's incredible hidden life transformed her forever. Sarah Blake sat in the austere law office, palms clammy and heart racing. With each tick of the clock, she felt the weight of the world resting upon her shoulders. The bereft faces surrounding her, strangers who claimed ties to a father she barely knew, created a buzz of uncertainty that pulsated through the air. It was supposed to be a simple will reading, but the specter of her father hung in the room, twisting emotions she thought were buried under layers of resilience. The words echoing in her mind, "Billionaire CEO," suddenly felt like shackles rather than a legacy. She had built her life on hard work and honesty, but what did that mean now? The attorney finally cleared his throat to begin the reading, and Sarah felt her stomach plunge. The room's tension simmered as her father's voice echoed through the speaker, announcing not only his vast wealth, but also a world she had neither wanted nor understood. Did that wealth come with strings that threatened to tug her away from the simple but meaningful life she had constructed with her son Jake? A nexus of memory collided with reality. She remembered a child's longing for a father, a hollow, yearning void that never filled. Could she really inherit a life that had abandoned her, alongside secrets wrapped in million-dollar deals? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Every word from the attorney deepened Sarah's existential unease. Could any of this new life align with her principles? As layers of her father's corporate empire unfolded, a darker shade of uncertainty shaded her thoughts. It was one thing to be handed an empire, it was another entirely to wrestle with knowing the truth behind it. Corporate espionage, unethical practices, and a cutthroat culture designed to silence those who stood against it. She was terrified of becoming just another person in the corporate game, risking her values for a lucrative title. Just as hope began to flicker, the possibility of redeeming her father's choices with Professor Reed's mentorship, she felt a sharp sting from memories of hardship and struggle, where every ounce of integrity had been tested. What if accepting this legacy meant betraying everything she had ever taught her students and Jake about living a life of character over wealth? Just then, thoughts of a rival businessman came to mind, a predator lurking just beyond the perimeters, ready to exploit her vulnerable status. The idea of her past being weaponized was an icy terror that wrapped around her. Sarah felt cornered, caught in a world that demanded she compromise the very essence of who she was. How could she navigate the treacherous waters ahead without losing herself in the turbulence? The stakes were rising, and she found herself questioning everything, holding tightly to the last vestiges of her belief system while feeling the tug of an unfamiliar fate. Was she ready to confront the truth of her father's legacy? And could she stand firm against those who would challenge her? Her journey had just begun, and the line between survival and moral integrity blurred ever more with each passing moment. As moments of quiet despair set in, one thought burned bright. Could she truly reclaim her identity amidst gold-plated expectations? As Sarah left the law office, the weight of her father's decisions clawed at her insides like a wild beast. Each step felt heavy, a reminder of the duality of her existence, the life she had built as an educator, a mother, and the newfound world she was thrust into. The streets were bustling, people hurrying to their destinations, yet here she stood, frozen in her thoughts, contemplating a future that was spinning dangerously out of control. The cool air was a stark contrast to the suffocating atmosphere of the will reading. She needed clarity. Driving home, her mind wandered through the myriad implications of her inheritance. Was this a chance to redefine her family name, or a stepping stone towards a destiny she didn't want? A shiver ran down her spine. The allure of power tussled with the dread of corruption. When she arrived, Jake was waiting for her, the innocence of his youth a poignant reminder of what truly mattered. His laughter broke through her stormy thoughts, but guilt clouded every smile she offered. How could she explain this new reality to him? A reality where her father's legacy felt more like a curse than a blessing? She could already envision the conversations that would unfold, the forks in the road between ambition and morality. "Mom, are you okay?" Jake asked, peering at her with concern. His intuitive nature often knew when her mind drifted elsewhere. "Just a lot on my mind, honey," she replied, forcing a smile as she ruffled his hair. As evening cast shadows across their living room, it became a sanctuary where she could begin to untangle the chaotic threads of her past and present. Setting aside her motherly duties, Sarah took out a pen and paper, her thoughts spooling into a list of pros and cons about embracing her father's empire. This methodical approach provided a semblance of control that she desperately needed. Every pro glimmered with potential: financial security for Jake, the chance to influence corporate culture, a platform to affect change. But the cons loomed larger, echoing the values she held dear: integrity, honesty, and a sense of purpose. She hadn't worked tirelessly to build a life rooted in ethics, only to trade it for a seat at a table dripping with greed. In her turmoil, the thought of Professor Reed resurfaced, a lifeline amid the chaos. She needed guidance, a beacon of wisdom to illuminate the obscured path. Picking up her phone, she hesitated before dialing. What if he saw her as a pawn in her father's game? What if he chastised her for even considering to enter that realm? But then she realized that anyone could perform the simple act of collecting a fortune. It took true character to transform it into something meaningful. With resolve, she pressed call, her heart quickening as it rang. "Professor Reed, it's Sarah Blake." The familiarity of her mentor's voice calmed her frayed nerves. "I've been waiting to hear from you. How's everything?" As she spoke of her father's legacy, she saw the path stretching before her. Rigorous decisions needed to be made. She needed to confront the dark reality of her father's choices as well as her own. Could she find the strength to challenge the status quo? After a long conversation, Reed's words were imbued with hope, but they sparked an ember of determination that ignited a fire within her. It was time to carve out her own identity, one that perhaps wouldn't shy away from her father's empire, but would seek to change it from the inside out. As the sun dipped below the horizon, she felt a new resolve. The path ahead was fraught with challenges, but she refused to slip quietly into her father's shadows. A new era beckoned, one that would weave integrity with ambition. The moment of reckoning approached. And just then, the doorbell rang, jolting her from her thoughts. Who could it be? As she approached the door, an unsettling sense of foreboding washed over her, merging with the resolve she had just forged. What awaited her on the other side? Opening the door, Sarah was greeted by a figure cloaked in shadows, the dim hallway casting elongated silhouettes against the walls. Her breath caught as she recognized the familiar face of Robert, her father's former associate. He stood there, eyes gleaming with a mix of concern and urgency. "Sarah," he said, the gravity of his tone heavy in the air, "we need to talk." Everything within her recoiled. Robert's presence was a reminder of the past she was grappling to redefine. She scrutinized him for a moment, weighing the consequences of allowing him into her home. But the urgency in his voice felt like a warning. "Come in," she finally said, stepping aside. Her mind was racing, and every instinct screamed at her to be careful. Once inside, Robert wasted no time. his words tumbling out like a rolling avalanche. "There are things you don't know about your father's dealings, things that could change everything for you and Jake." A part of her instinctively flared with anger. Why didn't he come forward before? Why now, when her world felt alarmingly unstable? Yet, curiosity gnawed at her resolve. Was it possible that he held information that could clarify her future path? "Just tell me, Robert, what do you mean?" She crossed her arms defensively, mentally steeling herself for whatever revelations would follow. His gaze flickered to her kitchen, then back to Sarah, as if weighing the words about to leave his lips. "Your father was involved in more than just business. There are complications, dangerous people, and if you take over, they won't let you walk away unscathed." Her heart raced. The prospect of a corrupted empire was growing more vivid than she'd ever imagined. A part of her wanted to dismiss him, to cling to her perception of her father's legacy as simply a tangled web of ambition and integrity. But another part, a part emerging from the flicker of determination ignited during her conversation with Reed, sought the truth. "Why should I believe you?" she challenged, her voice sharp, though anxiety gripped her insides. Robert leaned closer. "Because I've seen the files. I was privy to decisions made in boardrooms where ethics were tossed aside for profits. Your father was playing a bigger game than anyone realized. And now, those games will eventually land on your doorstep if you step into his shoes." With every word, the foundation of her father's empire began to crack. Shadows loomed larger, threatening to engulf her newfound resolve. She gripped the edge of the kitchen counter, searching for composure as conflicting emotions crashed within her. Was it possible her ambition could draw her into a world of danger her father had navigated with fraught cunning? "It's not just about your father's legacy, Sarah," he continued, voice thick with urgency. "It's about survival. The choices you make now could determine your life or threaten it entirely." As Robert's warning sank in, those once glimmering prospects of prosperity felt tarnished, laden with the weight of peril. She found herself approaching an intersection of decision, but this was a road fraught with moral ambiguity. She had always believed she could change the narrative, to mold her father's legacy into something better. But could she do that while managing threats she never anticipated? The path ahead was now intricately laced with uncertainty and fear. "I need to think," she murmured, retreating into her thoughts, but she felt the pull of two fierce ambitions: to conquer her father's empire with honor, or to protect her family from hidden dangers tied to its dark roots. As the turmoil swirled, Sarah knew she stood at the precipice of a monumental choice. Could she navigate the treacherous waters without losing herself in the process? The door shut softly behind Robert, leaving her alone in the dim light, her heart thundering in her chest. It was clear that the shadows of her father's legacy extended far beyond mere wealth. Now confronted with daunting truths, she realized the time had come to face an even deeper conflict within. What other secrets would unfold in this new reality? Would she find allies? Or would the shadows close in tighter than ever? The silence in the aftermath of Robert's visit wrapped around Sarah like a thick fog, obscuring her thoughts and provoking a potent mix of dread and determination. She leaned against the kitchen counter, her mind racing through the implications of his revelation. What kind of empire had her father truly built? Did she even want to step into the shoes discarded by a man who might have endangered their lives? Determined to regain control over her swirling thoughts, she turned to the task at hand. The next steps had to be strategic. She needed clarity. She picked up her phone, her fingers hovering over the screen. Was this the moment to reach out to Reed? His straightforward manner had provided her with a sense of direction. But would he understand the gravity of the new revelations that had emerged from Robert's ominous visit? As memories of her conversation with Reed flooded back, his encouragements, the way he had urged her to view her father's legacy as an opportunity, she realized the pivotal role he could play in her plans. Not only had they dug deep into the company's history together, but they had also talked about aspirations beyond the shadows of suspicion. Perhaps addressing the threats head-on was a necessary first step. With a resolute breath, she texted him, "Can we meet? It's urgent. I need your insight on something crucial." The text was sent into the ether. Now all she could do was wait. The minutes stretched like elastic, filled with a potent combination of uncertainty and the faint flicker of hope. While she paced her kitchen, Sarah reflected on the courage it had taken to step away from her father's legacy. Though daunting, she felt this pulse of empowerment. Navigating the unknown ahead could reveal potential she had not known lay within her. She wanted to be more than just her father's daughter. She wanted to be the architect of her future. As she immersed herself in thoughts of the transformations ahead, her phone buzzed. Reed's reply danced across the screen. "Of course. How about tonight at the cafe? We can discuss whatever's on your mind." The immediate response darkened the edge of her anxiety. She quickly agreed, finishing her tasks and attempting to tidy the chaotic whirlwind that had settled in her heart. The evening arrived much faster than expected, dragging with it an energy that seemed electric. Each sip of her coffee felt like a preparation for battle, and as she spotted Reed entering the cafe, she felt the weight of expectations settle around her shoulders. He had been so supportive, but this was different. Would he stand by her when faced with dark truths? "Sarah," Reed greeted with a warm smile that illuminated the space with ease. His presence eased some tension. "What's going on?" She hesitated momentarily, weighing her words before diving into the tumultuous chaos of her thoughts. "It's about my father's business. Robert came by today." Reed's expression hardened. What did he want? His tone had shifted. The casual cafe atmosphere that surrounded them felt distant now. She could sense his readiness as she launched into the entangled web of revelations. Every detail poured forth. Her father's clandestine dealings, Robert's dire warnings, the potential threats awaiting her if she chose to play the role of successor. Reed listened intently, leaning into her words, his brow furrowing deeper with each revelation. "This isn't just about business anymore," he finally said, his voice low and serious. "You need to be careful, Sarah. This isn't a game." The gravity of his response embedded itself deep within her, igniting a dual flame of resolve and fear. The stakes were higher than she had anticipated, her ambition now tangled in dangers far beyond her control. But as their conversation unfolded, the fear began evolving into a challenge. This was the storm she had to navigate to redefine her existence, both as a daughter and a leader. "Reed," she said, newfound determination flooding her voice, "I want to confront this. I need your help to uncover the truth. I won't live in the shadows anymore." He searched her eyes, a moment of awareness passing between them. "I'll stand by you, Sarah, whatever it takes." The resolve in his expression anchored her hopes, affirming that she wouldn't face the impending storm alone. Deep inside, a pulse of confidence surged. If she could muster the strength to confront her father's legacy and fight for her own truth, she could reshape her destiny. What steps would they take together to untangle the empire's dark threads? And more importantly, how much danger would they attract as they forged ahead into the unknown? The cafe thrummed with life, yet for Sarah it felt like an isolated bubble, separated from the bustle around her. She and Reed sat at a corner table, the air thick with unspoken fears and plans. His promise to support her anchored her resolve, But now, a nagging question persisted. What if the truth was even more unsettling than the shadows she had glimpsed? "Where do we begin?" Reed asked, pulling her back from her spiraling thoughts. His gaze was steady, inviting her to break through the fog of uncertainty. Sarah took a breath, summoning clarity from within. "I think we need to start with the company's financial records. Robert mentioned there were discrepancies, and I want to understand exactly what my father was involved in." Reed nodded, a look of determination crossing his eyes. "I can help you analyze them, but it might require more than just looking at numbers on a page. We could face unexpected backlash." The weight of potential consequences loomed in her mind. She had felt empowered moments before, but now doubt crept in. Was this newly found resolve just a facade shielding her from the reality of what lay ahead? "We can't let fear dictate our actions," Sarah replied, surprising herself with her own conviction. "This is just about uncovering truths for the sake of knowing. This is about reclaiming my narrative, about not being bound by who my father was." Reed studied her for a moment, and she could sense the wheels turning in his mind. "You're right, we have to reposition the narrative. But before we dive into the company's past, I think we need to clarify your position. Are you willing to take on the mantle?" His question hung heavy between them, not just an inquiry about the business, but a confrontation with her identity. "I have to be," Sarah replied, her pulse quickening. "This is my chance to redefine what my father's legacy means, to separate myself from any darkness that may cling to it." The words solidified her resolve, but internally she battled lingering trepidation. What if she stepped into a role she wasn't prepared for? "Then let's dig deeper," Reed said, his voice steadying her. "But first, we need to prepare for whatever we uncover. People in your father's circle might not take kindly to a shift in power." "The company's board trusted my father implicitly," Sarah remembered, a swirl of names and faces flashing through her mind. "If I step up, I'll be facing not just their skepticism, but perhaps hostility. They might see me as unworthy, a challenge to their existing order." Reed leaned closer, his intensity palpable. "You'll have to prove them wrong. If you want to dismantle whatever empire he built, you'll need to build a new one around your own principles. And that means being strategic, not just bold." Feeling emboldened by his conviction, she resolved to reclaim control. "What if we set up meetings with key players in the company? Start creating alliances early. Show them I'm serious about this role." Reed's eyes brightened. "That could work. Establishing relationships could help solidify your authority. But remember, some might be loyal to your father and resistant to change. Be ready for that." Her mind raced as she pondered the potential allies and enemies surrounding her father's empire. The realization was exhilarating and terrifying all at once. "They will test me. I can't let them second-guess my capabilities. I have to approach every interaction with guidance and clarity." With that thought, a latent strength surged within her. As they continued discussing strategies, the looming deadline of the next board meeting escalated the tension. Could she really pull herself and the company from the depth of her father's questionable dealings into a world built on transparency and trust? "I have one more idea," Reed said, interrupting her thoughts suddenly once more. "What if we sift through your father's old contacts? Maybe there are former allies that felt disillusioned with his methods." "What if they were just as involved?" she countered, apprehension twisting through her stomach at the thought. "What if reaching out brings more danger?" Silence enveloped them as the weight of possibility loomed large. Would she endanger herself further, reaching into the depths of a world she barely knew? Yet in that moment of uncertainty, Sarah realized the most critical decision awaited her. Was she ready to rewrite her story, embracing both risks and revelations? The prospect of meeting those who could potentially unravel the truth offered a glimpse of power, albeit entangled with danger. "Tomorrow, let's start reaching out," she finally declared, the determination strengthening her voice. "I'm done hiding from this darkness." Reed nodded, matching the fierce resolve in her gaze, but a flicker of doubt crossed his expression. "Just be careful, Sarah. The shadows you're about to confront could be darker than you realize." Her heartbeat pulsed with the weight of uncharted territory as she prepared for a confrontation with her father's past. Would she emerge victorious, or would the empire collapse under the secrets buried within it? Tomorrow would mark a monumental shift in her life, and what awaited her beyond the dawn could change everything. But was she ready to face the monsters lurking just out of sight? Sarah awoke the following morning with an urgency that blotted out any residual fatigue. The sun streamed through the window, invading her thoughts like a relentless tide. Today was the day she would step beyond the limits of her father's shadow, armed with determination and readiness to reclaim her identity. Every moment during her early morning routine felt imbued with a weight of anticipation. She splashed cold water on her face, willing herself to remain grounded and focused. As she dressed, the suit she chose was more than mere fabric. It was armor. It transformed her, aligning her outward appearance with the serious intent pulsating within her. Arriving at the company headquarters, Sarah's heart raced in tandem with her charging thoughts. The grand structure loomed above her, a stark reminder of her father's legacy. Each office window reflected the legacy she was determined to redefine, a daunting challenge, one that made her feel as if she stood on the precipice of an abyss. Determined to rise above those feelings, Sarah pushed through the revolving door, taking in the familiar scent of polished wood and faint coffee. Employees milled about, engaged in conversations that washed over her like white noise. She had been a part of this world for years, but now it felt foreign, a place where her father's influence seeped through every corner. No longer would she allow his shadow to loom large over her aspirations. Today she would reach out, break apart the silos of doubt, and introduce herself not solely as Robert Hawthorne's daughter, but as a woman poised to take her rightful place. She stopped by her office, its door ajar, and squared her shoulders. This wasn't just about uncovering secrets, it was about establishing her authority. As she sat at her desk, her fingers danced over the keyboard, crafting emails to those on her father's former contact list. Each message was a call to arms, a declaration that she was taking charge. Despite her growing resolve, a echo of doubt flared each time she prepared to hit send. What if her father's contacts viewed her as an interloper, a mere placeholder, and a role meant for someone more capable? Each name she typed out, Megan Lawson, David Chen, and Brian Ward, was a name laden with expectations of loyalty to a legacy she intended to dismantle. Breath steady, she sent the emails, feeling the weight lifting slightly as if she were beginning a small rebellion. But relief transformed quickly into anxiety as she realized that this opening act would trigger inevitable responses, some welcoming, others antagonistic. Hours ticked by, and between meetings and strategy sessions, her mind raced with the range of possibilities awaiting her. When the first reply came, it was an unexpected jolt of clarity. David Chen, a longtime financial advisor for her father, expressed willingness to meet. Curiosity layered over caution. The reply was not what she had anticipated. As the afternoon sun dipped low, Sarah's heart thundered during the brief moment of reflection at her desk. She could feel the impending confrontation on the horizon, a blend of rising excitement and the chill of uncertainty. Would David be an ally or another adversary poised to sweep her under the oppressive weight of her father's past? The hours until their meeting felt interminable. She prepared meticulously, gathering documents, notes, anything that would help her face the reality of a world that would come crashing down or be rebuilt entirely under her stewardship. The stakes soared higher with each thought, tethering her to her purpose. That evening, as she lounged in her favorite chair, preparatory notes spread chaotically around her while the shadows crept along walls, spurred by flickering lamplight, a subsequent reminder of the dangers lurking just out of sight, waiting to pounce. "Just stay confident," she murmured to herself, finding solace in the resilience she had discovered within. She could feel change rumbling beneath her skin, a tumult of potential, a beckoning call to her newfound identity. The night stretched on, filled with the promise of tomorrow's confrontation. Would her brush with the past yield unexpected revelations or unleash secrets that would shatter her assumptions? The thought intrigued and terrified her in equal measure, like two sides of the same coin. As she drifted into fitful sleep that night, Sarah knew she stood on the cusp of a transformative evolution, prepared to face an uncertain future. And beneath it all, one undeniable truth resonated. The moment had finally come to confront her father's legacy, to navigate a clash of ambition, darkness, and undeniable discovery. What awaited her in the morning might just alter everything she thought she knew about herself and the empire she once dreaded to inherit. Dawn broke with a tentative light, coaxing Sarah from the depths of sleep. She shook off the remnants of her dreams, her body still thrumming with the tension of the day ahead. Thoughts of the meeting with David Chen flooded her mind. A mixture of anticipation and dread colored her emotions, each heartbeat echoing a mantra of self-reinvention. After a hurried breakfast, she slipped into her meticulously chosen suit, the fabric hugging her frame like a second skin. Standing before the mirror, she practiced her opening line, trying to mask the quiver in her voice with conviction. "I am not Robert Hawthorne's daughter. I am Sarah Hawthorne, and I am ready to lead." Each iteration lost its edge, revealing the frail threads of doubt stitched into her resolve. The drive to the office felt like a roller coaster, curves of excitement built on the high of hopes interlaced with the stomach-sinking lows of uncertainty. The closer she got to the headquarters, the more her thoughts raced, brushing past insecurities like fleeting shadows. A part of her wondered if she was prepared to take on the expectations of a room full of seasoned executives, their eyes filled with skepticism, perhaps laughter at her audacity. She parked, straightened her tie, and swallowed hard as she approached the building's entrance. The polished steel and glass reflected not just the morning sun, but decades of power dynamics that had once felt impenetrable to her. Today, she would attempt to dismantle that fortified facade brick by brick. Inside, the atmosphere buzzed with a cadence she had grown accustomed to. Urgent murmurs, ringing phones, the shuffle of papers. Sarah stole a moment to breathe, centering herself within the chaos. As she reached the meeting room, she was aware of the stakes. She needed to solidify her position, not just formally, but mentally. Walking in was a symbolic march toward both recognition and the unknown. She took a seat at the long table, arranging her folders like shields before her. David arrived, his presence commanding yet tempered with curiosity. He offered a polite smile, but Sarah could sense wariness beneath. "Sarah, it's good to see you," he began, an edge of formality in his tone, perhaps testing the waters. "Thank you, David," she replied, striving for poise as she locked eyes with him. The moment felt electric, each word exchanged a test of wills. "I want to discuss a vision for the future, my vision." As she articulated her strategies, she noticed David's brows furrow with every bold statement she made. Gaining momentum, she shared her plans for revitalizing their financial strategies, endowing the company with fresh life and adapting to a transforming marketplace. Each confident word unraveled more of her father's legacy, making the air thicker with anticipation. This was, after all, a potential turning point. However, just as she began to see glimmers of understanding in David's eyes, a question sliced through her like ice. "But why should we trust you?" His directness pierced the bravado she'd worked hard to construct. In that moment, she hardly recognized herself, lost in a tangle of prepared remarks that suddenly felt hollow. Yet, something deeper stirred within. The recollection of her father's failures, the lessons embedded in his rise and fall. Rather than retreating, she leaned into the discomfort, forging an uncharted path. "Because I can offer new perspectives, not bound by the past. I can adapt, innovate, and inspire a team destined for greatness." David studied her, his hesitation palpable. She realized the meeting was more than just about the company. It had become a crucible of self-examination. The weight of her identity crashed against the walls of professional expectation. Would she bend to the legacy that demanded conformity, or would she carve her own legacy with audacity? The meeting closed with David signaling his intent to discuss her ideas further, but no resolution solidified their collaboration. As she walked out, her heart clenched. Uncertainty loomed like a specter, echoing the question, had she done enough to break free? In the elevator, her reflection bore a look of steely determination, mingled with shadowy doubt. It was a beginning, not an end, a flicker of potential shrouded in an unknown future. As the door slid open, she understood that the foundation was laid, but it required allies willing to stand by her side. Sarah touched her phone, scrolling through her contacts for familiar names, searching for allies who would believe in her transformation. Perhaps finding warm words of support would fortify her resolve. With her eyes set on the horizon of her father's empire, she stepped into the lobby, intent on facing whatever lurked ahead. But looming over her thoughts was the knowledge that the truth about her father's dealings was still veiled, a mystery intertwining with her journey ahead. The web began to tighten, and only time would reveal if she was ready to face whatever secrets lay hidden in the depths of her father's legacy. Would those revelations elevate her or send everything crumbling down? The next few days blurred into an unyielding cycle of meetings, strategy sessions, and late nights at the office. Each encounter with David felt double-edged. His measured responses remained elusive, leaving her craving the affirmation of her newfound identity. With every proposal she submitted, the anticipation skittered between hope and despair. Yet, somewhere within the cacophony of her mind, Sarah felt a shift. Each pitch, irrespective of the outcome, was a step away from the shadows of her father's influence. One afternoon, Sarah found herself in her office, the hum of distant voices muffled through the thick glass walls. She became increasingly cognizant of the unspoken weight she carried, the expectations born from legacy rather than personal achievement. It was no longer enough to be Robert Hawthorne's daughter. She had to be someone else entirely, someone with her own vision, strategies, and ultimately, her own story. As she sat down to parse through yet another report, a notification pinged on her phone. It was a message from Mia, a former colleague who had shifted to a role in a rival firm. They had always maintained a light-hearted friendship, one that afforded them authenticity in an otherwise corporate landscape. Sarah hesitated before opening the message, some invisible barrier holding her back, fearing that Mia's insight could both empower her and expose her vulnerabilities. "Hey, heard about your new role. Let's grab lunch. I have some insights on what I think you're building." The half-formed thoughts echoed in Sarah's mind. Insights? The prospect intrigued her, but it meant confronting the insecurities she had barely began to wrestle. Gathering her courage, she texted back her agreement for lunch. As the day unfolded, anticipation turned into tension. It wasn't the food she craved, it was validation. When they met at a small cafe, Mia's sharp observations quickly disrupted the polite pleasantries. "You're navigating some rough waters, Sarah. I've heard whispers at the office. People are skeptical about your direction." Accusation mingled with concern, and a weighty silence hung between them. Sarah bristled, feeling the old fear creep back in. How was she supposed to lead when others were still dragging her father's reputation like an anchor? "They want results, Sarah," Mia continued, her tone both cautionary and encouraging. "But if you don't carve a space for yourself beyond your name, they won't trust you." The remark ignited a fire inside Sarah. She forced herself to respond, the words tumbling out before she could stop them. "Trust has to be earned, but how do I earn it when they see me as a diluted version of my father? I need to show them I'm more than just his daughter." Mia smiled softly, recognizing the self-awareness blooming within her friend. "Then make your mark. Find a unique selling point that's distinctly yours, then present it boldly." In the lush greenery of their surroundings, Sarah combed through her thoughts, realizing that Mia's observations nudged her closer to an uncharted territory she had yet to explore. Instead of merely retaliating against skepticism, what if she sought to redefine her legacy? When they parted ways, Sarah felt lighter, armed with a path that felt both fresh and daunting. Returning to her office, the walls no longer seemed confining. They were now canvases waiting for strokes of her distinctive vision. Days passed, and with renewed vigor, Sarah began outlining a proposal centered around social accountability in finance, an initiative designed to enhance transparency, emphasizing risk management while nurturing core values she believed in. As she drafted her mission statement, she felt the satisfaction of claiming her identity. All it took was the willingness to confront the identity she had been handed, questioning the obligation to cling to it. However, beneath the momentum, shadows still loomed large. One evening, as she left the office, her phone buzzed insistently. It was a news alert. Robert Hawthorne's legacy questioned as new revelations emerge. Her heart raced. With a few swift taps, she delved into the article. The pulse of her ambition collided violently with dread. It hinted at undisclosed dealings involving her father that could unravel everything she had been building. The questions buzzing in her mind intensified. Would she be able to distance herself from her father's legacy if the revelations tarnished his image? More importantly, could she salvage her identity in the wake of potential ruin? As doubt threatened her newly fortified resolve, the magnitude of the impending storm loomed ever nearer. Sarah's determination hardened. She had been placed on shaky ground, but she was ready for what lay ahead. The truth, she realized, was not just a path to freedom, it was an obligation she could no longer ignore. In the unfolding chaos of family legacy versus personal success, she had to confront the truth about her father before it consumed her. The time had come to face the consequences of her inheritance. The cacophony of her anxiety reverberated in Sarah's mind as she paced her office, the news alert lingering ominously. The notion of her father's legacy unraveling sent jagged shards of fear through her determination to carve out her own path. It wasn't merely about sidewalk victory or boardroom applause anymore. It was about navigating a legacy riddled with uncertainty and half-truths. As the night crept along, sleep eluded her. A storm brewed within her thoughts. Infectious doubts echoed with each beat of her heart. The articles painted her father as a titan fallen from grace. What had she shackled herself to? She needed the truth, not just to reassure herself, but to see the full picture for her proposal, to create a foundation on her own terms. Morning dawned, gray and heavy, mirroring her mood. With a pot of coffee beside her, she began her own investigation, combing through articles and documents that might reveal the extent of her father's actions. Each click of the mouse felt like a step deeper into a rabbit hole she never intended to explore, but now had to confront. Time slipped away as she buried herself in research, each revelation more distressing than the last. undisclosed affiliations, questionable financial transactions, distant contacts in foreign markets that held a reverberation of deceit. She paused, heart pounding, confronted by the vista of her inheritance. How much weighed on her shoulders? How much could she carry while still striving for authenticity in her professional life? A knock interrupted her thoughts. David entered, his expression unreadable. Sarah recognized the familiar feeling of unease. The quiet authority he exuded was both reassuring and intimidating. He leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. "Mind if I join you?" She nodded, unsure if his presence would be a balm or a catalyst for further agitation. As he took a seat, she braced herself for the looming conversation, aware of professionals around them staring, their whispers unfurling like banners in the air. "Sarah," he began, the gravity of the moment encapsulated in his tone, "I need to discuss your proposal. The board is curious, concerned, actually. With the recent events surrounding your father, they question if now is the right time for new initiatives, especially ones tied to transparency when legacy implications hang in the balance." A knot tightened in Sarah's stomach. David's words were not only dismissive, but charged with the anticipation of failure that stroked her insecurities to life. Did he doubt her capability? Or was he simply a harbinger of the uncertainties that had emerged? "I understand," she asserted, her voice steadier than she felt. "But isn't this the moment to redefine what legacy means? Shouldn't we stand not just under his weight, but seek to create something distinctly separate and enlightening?" David regarded her, his brow furrowing at her defiance. "Idealism is admirable, Sarah, but realism often prevails in this industry. When one legacy collapses, trust must be rebuilt meticulously." His response was insidious, hinting at a resignation that churned inside her. Yet at that moment, another vision began to take hold, a possibility that aligned her struggles with her intentions, bridging the chasm of distrust. "What if I anchor my proposal based on a truth narrative?" she found herself questioning, testing the mettle of her own thoughts. "An initiative for disclosure, a platform that not only revitalizes trust, but demands accountability from our leadership." David paused, the surprise flickering across his expression. "You think coming in with truths will reshape perceptions? It could backfire. What you're suggesting takes a body of evidence to stand on." "Or it could initiate a culture shift," she countered, emboldened with each word. "If I present the findings openly on our terms, it displaces the skewed narrative. We define the conversation before it swallows us whole." He leaned back, evaluating the implications with calculating acknowledgement. Sarah sensed a pivotal moment unfurl, an opportunity to surprise not only others, but herself. Could she transform this chaos into a beginning, a definitive step into her own light? As they discussed the logistics, the gears in their conversation began to grind out a plan, one that could tame the growing storm outside, but also light the spark of revelation she desperately sought. Finally, after a gravely silent pause, David nodded. "If you're serious about this, I'll give you my full support. But know that this can escalate quickly in our field. You'll need more than strategy. Prepare yourself for scrutiny. This is not a game for the faint-hearted." A surge of adrenaline coursed through her veins. He was extending her a lifeline, but it came with unspoken expectations. As they wrapped up, Sarah's mind raced ahead. Opening this door unveiled further possibilities. She could wrestle with the legacy while pushing for a landscape where her identity thrived independently. The path was fraught with risk, but so was retreating into the shadows of expectations. Emerging through the corporate fog, she readied herself to face the world. Uncertainty not as her shackling burden, but as a gateway to entirely new realms of possibility. Determined, she left the office early to start her research. The repercussions of her father's shadow, both illuminating and suffocating, could not define her anymore. It was time to reclaim her narrative. But as she glanced out onto the tumultuous skyline, a new news alert appeared on her phone. Whistleblower comes forward. Disturbing details emerge about Robert Hawthorne's business practices. Her heart stopped. The surface she had just begun to navigate trembled with more devastation than ever anticipated. Confronting her father's legacy was undoubtedly going to be a monumental task, and she needed to prepare to defend not just her work, but her evolving identity. The storm inside Sarah Blake intensified, swirling with the implications of the latest revelations regarding her father. Each article she skimmed compounded her dread. They spoke not just of shady dealings, but of charges that could dismantle everything she was trying to build. She felt as if the very foundation she was attempting to establish was crumbling before her eyes, buried under layers of her family's tainted legacy. Yet, amid the chaos, a fierce determination began to take hold of her. She grappled with the weight of expectations, wondering if she would ever break free from her father's shadow. The clock was ticking. Her strategy needed to be precise, grounded in transparency and integrity. This was not just about her father's past misdeeds. It was about claiming her rightful place in a world rife with skepticism and doubt. As days melded into nights, Sarah fortified her spirit with the knowledge that she could redefine her narrative. She reached out to colleagues, allies who shared her vision of integrity over profit, formulating the groundwork for a new era in the company. By establishing an initiative focused on ethical accountability, she aimed to weave her values into the very fabric of the organization, a framework that could withstand the scrutiny of both the public and her peers. With Reed's encouragement, each meeting propelled her forward. They convened sessions, gathering insights that spotlighted not just the ethical failings of the empire she was stepping into, but also the potential for a transformative shift. Ideas flowed like a river, powerful and unyielding. If she could integrate these reforms smoothly, she could blaze a trail that distinguished her leadership from her father's. Yet, the moments of triumph were punctuated by underlying fears. Each decision she made felt monumental. She was unraveling the past while sculpting the future. In late-night conversations with Reed, she wrestled with the looming threats that echoed Robert's warnings, not just from former associates of her father, but also from board members who might feel their power threatened. The weight of expectation pressed heavily upon her. One evening, after working late on her proposal, Sarah returned home feeling a strange mix of exhilaration and uncertainty. As Jake bounded into her embrace, his laughter enveloped her like a warm blanket, momentarily casting away her concerns. These small moments of joy reminded her of who she was and the family she wanted to build, a family grounded in values rather than wealth. "Mom, are we going to be okay?" Jake asked, his eyes wide with innocence. The simple question squeezed her heart. "Yes, honey," she replied, forcing a smile and reaching to tuck a loose strand of hair behind his ear. "We're going to be more than okay. We're going to thrive." Those words fortified her. If she could carve out a path for herself, she could instill those very values into her son. This was not merely about power. It was about legacy, about building a future that aligned with her principles. With that sense of purpose, Sarah set to work once more, channeling her anger and frustration into creating her vision statement. The following week, she stood before the board of directors, ready to unveil the initiative she hoped would become a cornerstone of her leadership. The air was thick with tension as eyes bore into her. David sat at the front, an anchor to her trembling nerves. "Thank you all for being here today," she began, her voice steady and deliberate. "As you all know, recent events have cast a shadow over our operations and our leadership. Yet, I believe this is our opportunity, a chance to reshape our narrative into one that aligns with ethical accountability and shared values." She spoke passionately, weaving her father's failures into a narrative that showcased her vision not as a rebellion against the past, but as a bridge toward a brighter future. With each carefully crafted sentence, she invited them to see her not as an extension of a legacy, but as a leader whose values could shine brightly within their organization. As she concluded, silence enveloped the room. Tension was palpable. David cleared his throat, breaking that silence. "This is a bold proposal, one that could redefine our corporate values and leadership. I commend you for your initiative, Sarah." Applause erupted around the table, mixed with discussions echoing her ideas. She had not only gained their attention, but had also drawn them into a conversation of possibility. In that moment, she felt the weight of her father's legacy begin to lift. She could become more than just his daughter. Days blurred into a whirlwind of planning and meetings, each one reinforcing her stature. Sarah felt a solid confidence building, bolstered by the competence she was finally demonstrating. Decisions made, meetings conducted, she embraced her role not with fear, but with clarity and purpose. As her first initiative launched, reports flooded in, illustrating increased employee morale, finally aligning with the ethical purpose she had championed. Key metrics began to reflect progress, proving her vision's merit. This triumph was not just a personal victory. It was a transformative shift that steered the company towards a culture of trust and integrity. The ultimate test came when a news article broke, announcing the distasteful truths behind her father's legacy, confirming Robert's warnings about dangerous players lurking in the shadows. Yet, instead of retreating into despair, Sarah stood firm, addressing each allegation head-on. The company she now led responded with transparency and accountability, fortifying the initiatives she had implemented. In that defining moment, Sarah felt an evolution unfold. She had rewritten her narrative. No longer just defined by her father, she stood as a leader, imbued with purpose and integrity. The shadows threatened by her father's legacy had transformed into stepping stones for her journey. Now recognized for her competence and resilience, Sarah Blake had emerged not only as a CEO, but as a mother undeterred from fighting for her ideals. She no longer felt burdened by her father's empire. Instead, she embraced her unique identity, a harbinger of change and a beacon of hope for others navigating their path in the corporate world. With a sense of deep satisfaction, Sarah stepped out onto the balcony of her office. The world below hummed with the pulse of life. It was no longer filled with potential traps, but possibilities waiting to be created. This was her moment, a true testament to individual transformation grounded in core values, and a legacy she could proudly claim. Remember, every journey begins with a single step. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second to share.